So, tell you a little bit. My name is Reed Snedeker. My last 40 years in my career I've spent in the environmental industry. The first 4 years of my career I spent as an environmental consulting engineer. The last 36 years I've spent providing equipment and processes for communities and businesses for water and wastewater treatment. So I've assisted those municipalities and major corporations in selecting and purchasing equipment that will assist them in making sure that the water that they deal with, whether they're discharging it from a wastewater treatment plant or preparing it for distribution into a municipal water system, is suitable. So talk about sewer and water, and I call it the camel's nose under the tent flap, but I think most of you are familiar with that analogy. That once the camel gets his nose under the tent flap, it's not too awful long before the camel is now in your tent. And that's exactly the situation that we have with sewer and water. Now, in 2004, the village completed a comprehensive plan for the future of the village, planned out for the next 20 years. It's very commonly referred to as the Smart Growth Plan. That process took hundreds of hours of public meetings and public input with, at the time, I believe, town individuals to prepare an idea of where we wanted the village, now the village, to go over the next preceding years. Now, one of the major points in that discussion had to do with sewer and water. And we, as a village and village residents, said in overwhelming numbers, we do not want municipal sewer and water in the village of Richfield. So you would expect that your elected officials would abide by your wishes. That's what you would expect. That had a 20-year, this is the adopted 20-year plan for the village of Richfield. And you'll remember that Michael discussed neighborhood activity centers, one there, one here. I believe there was one more planned elsewhere. We wound up in this with a couple of what I call hamlets. Now, a hamlet was supposed to be a walkable community area. The problem with the hamlet is this. You're putting residential buildings on quarter-acre lots. These are the same size lots that you have in Milwaukee, Greendale, Menominee Falls, New Berlin, you know, any community that has municipal sewer and water. You can build them on lots that are that small. Reflections Village, right there, has homes on quarter-acre lots with shared wells and shared waste treatment systems. The reason you don't put high-density housing on septic systems is the soil is not able to accept that amount of concentrated waste without running the risk of contaminating the wells. Now, if you go into Reflections Village, you'll also see fire hydrants. I've never been in a village that can support fire hydrants off of residential wells. You can't produce enough water at a high enough pressure that is suitable for them. So what are they doing there? That's a first indication of do as I say, not what I do. You can see that up here in the northeast, there's a lot of commercial and industrial development. And interestingly, our neighbors in Jackson have a planned sewer that comes pretty close to that northeast corner of the village. Interesting. As part of your plan, it has to be updated periodically. And recently, the village of Richfield contracted with Trilogy Consulting and Crystal Snyder Incorporated, an engineering firm, to do a community build-out analysis. And this is that report. Now, I've read this report. It's not terribly long, but I will tell you this, it's terribly confusing. Because there are a number of statements that are made in that get contradicted later on. So in the process, you're trying to get your head wrapped around what's going on. And I believe that you can have access to that report through the village. But some of the things that are said in there is that residential pays more in taxes than it costs to support them. Industrial commercial pays less in taxes than what it pays to support them. So if I'm going to build, and I want my community to grow, it would seem to me that residential would make the most sense because it costs less to support them. But in this report, as I read it, it says you should probably have more commercial and industrial development. That'll lower your taxes. I don't know about you, but I can't get my head around that. Doesn't make sense based on the statements that were made previously. In this report, this is what they're calling out if you do primarily a residential build out. Now, if you take a look, 175 runs right through here. Okay, here's Reflections Village. Here's a multifamily high-density residential. Here's another high-density residential. Here's another. And you'll notice that this one, and this is low-density residential here, are west of Highway 175. And this is important. This is industrial build-out. Once again, there's Reflections Village. You got more multifamily there. A lot of commercial, industrial up in this area. Mixed use, walkable, I suppose. It's supposed to be a walkable hamlet. Not sure when you're walking in this hamlet where you're going. There's really no place to go. There's a bank there. You want to walk to the bank, you can walk to the bank. You can walk to your neighbors. When you move to Richfield, or if you've lived here, and many of you have lived here all your life, you like Richfield because when you stick your hand out your bedroom window, you're not scratching your neighbor's back, okay? There's room. And you like that. You're not on municipal water with chlorine and fluoride and some of the disinfection byproducts that occur when you treat surface water that result in carcinogenic formulations. You like your well water. You like, yeah, I got my septic system. Every couple of years I have somebody come and pump it out for $175 or $200, and I'm good. I'm down the road. I came out here for the country way of life. Mike alluded to this earlier, and I'm going to bring it up now. And I apologize to those of you in the back, even those of you in the front. This is hard to read. This is from a public hearing on July 5th of 2012. And the item for the public hearing was discussion action regarding an ordinance number 2012-6-1, an ordinance to create section blah, 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 the Village of Richfield Code of Ordinance relating to village board power to authorize public works projects. Okay. Now, we were told that the reason that we needed this ordinance was that at that time there did not exist any limits on the monies that the village board could spend for public works projects. This ordinance was to put a limit on that. And Josh Showman is here. Welcome, Josh. He explained that this ordinance addresses the authority of the village board as it relates to major public works objects, and I emphasize major myself. There are no restrictions in place with respect to the board spending public funds on public works projects. This ordinance would add a referendum requirement for the installation of municipal sewer and water west of Highway 175, or any project that exceeds 0.5% of the equalized value of the community. Now, the equalized value of our community is about 1.5 billion. That's a billion with a B. So 0.5% is approximately $7.5 million in today's dollars. Okay. So what that says is, as long as the Public Works project is east of Highway 175, the village board can spend up to $7.5 million and they don't have to ask us at all. So the discussion continued, and I made it too. I'm on here, right there. I said I'm in favor of the referendum, but would like to see the dollar amount lowered to approximately $100,000. I think, it seems reasonable. Keeps the Public Works issues in line. So this is what they decided on. Well, first of all, they discussed if the dollar amount was too high. And President Jeffords suggested that $100,000 may be too low of a threshold because you don't want to have to spend $20,000 on a referendum vote, for a $200,000 or $100,000 snowplow. Well, here's one of the problems with public hearings. Once you've gotten up to the dais and you've spoken your piece, you're done. So when a comment like that gets made, you don't have the opportunity to go back up and rebut it. So I'm going to rebut it now. A snowplow is not a public works project. It's a capital expense or it's a maintenance expense, not a capital project. So they grudgingly lowered the percentage from 0.5 to 0.33%. In today's dollars, that's about $5 million, just so you get an idea. So the village, with that ordinance, stripped you of your input for any public works project under $5 million that occurs east of Highway 175. When I was in the candidates forum, one of the questions that constantly came up, what about sewer and water? And if some of you attended those, what you heard was, we will never, ever have municipal sewer and water in the village of Richfield. I'm telling you right now, that puts a lie to that comment. Any elected official on a village board who made that statement was lying, because they authorized themselves the opportunity and the ability to do exactly that. I guarantee that at some point, boy, am I getting fired up. The sewer systems, the septic systems, the waste treatment portion of Reflections Village will fail. And because that construction, a special use permit was authorized for the construction of Reflections Village, somebody's going to be responsible for making sure that the residents of the village that live there now have good water and safe disposal of the waste from their homes. Commonly known as municipal sewer and water. All right, so in this report, it says that only those who are on municipal sewer and water will pay for the service. If you talk to anybody from Franklin, they will tell you that's not true. Half of Franklin has municipal sewer and water. All of Franklin pays for it. And here's the real downside to municipal sewer and water. And I would tell you, and any of you, that you can find this. This is a report from SewerPAC, Southeast Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission. Now, basically, what they're looking to do, SewerPAC is an advisory board for 7 counties in Southeast Wisconsin. They would like anybody who lives anywhere in that 7-county area to have the same opportunities as you have living here in Richfield. So what they want to do, and it's in this report, I could go through it, but we don't have a lot of time. I got a 15-minute window, and I'm probably getting close to the end of that. If you have municipal sewer and water, you will look to have low-income, high-density housing. As many as 10 family units per acre. If you went to Reflections Village, which is 4 family units per acre, you would put an additional house and a half on each lot. That's what you would wind up with. Okay, so what does that mean? Okay, well, low-income housing. Well, first of all, you don't want to live next to it because it's going to have a detrimental effect on your property values. Secondly, when you bring low-income housing, and my apologies to anybody who lives in low-income housing, you get crime. And with crime, and it's in this report as well, what they're saying is, if you do that, and you do the building that they're talking about, you will probably need a full-time professional fire department, full-time police department. You're going to have a major impact on your schools. Your schools aren't going to be big enough. You're going to need to have more money for schools and school taxes. Low-income housing is a siren call to any developer because low-income housing has federal subsidies, it has state subsidies, probably has county subsidies, all kinds, and they come in, they build it, and the village gets it. Now it's yours. So the impact of that development means that all the village will pay for police and for fire and for school. So the concept that only those who are on municipal sewer and water are going to pay for it is another fallacy. So I would urge you to go ahead and, if you get a chance, get your hands on that report. Go to SewerPAC's website and take a look at that report because it gets much more detail about what they expect your community to do. When you look at the maps in there, Richfield, my God, there's not a blot on the village of Richfield. There's no industrial centers. There's no high concentration of population centers. And it's like, hey, look at those guys over there. They're not being fair because they've got all that land out there. And, you know, I'm poor. I want to live out there. And they're gonna lay that on you. Call me insensitive, but that's the intent. That's why we're concerned about sewer and water. That's why we say don't ever let it into the village. Once it's here, camel's nose under the tent flap, you all wind up getting saddled with the costs that are associated with it. Thank you. David Rademacher is now going to be speaking to you about the call to action. David has been on a number of school boards and village boards and town boards in his career. Many of you know him. You probably had him teach your children. And he's a lifelong resident here. And he has a real heartfelt desire that Richfield remain rural and protecting our country way of life. David?